we begin with the president's trade war escalating tonight. This evening, the retaliation against the United States, Canada, and the European Union responding quickly, just hours after President Trump's 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States.
Imagine one signature and $146 billion disappeared from the face of the earth. No trial, no protests, no slow decline, just a lightning strike delivered without warning. Every Tesla in Canada doubled in price overnight. Not because of inflation, not because of scarcity, because of political will. It's not just a tax, it's a spit in the face of an entire empire. And yes, it worked.
We've accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
He praised all the domestic actions he has taken so far on immigration.
And I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
And spending cuts.
We are draining the swamp. It's very simple.
Salon sales froze. Orders disappeared. Starlink contracts worth tens of millions cancelled. The stock is in free fall. But behind all this storm, there's something far more dangerous that no financial report will tell you. This isn't just a business dispute. This is political revenge. It's a war where electric cars have become bullets and reputations have become targets. And at the center of this hurricane is a man who until recently was hailed as a genius, Elon Musk.
Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged... there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
In this video, you'll learn how one country struck not at a company, but at the very symbol of the technological age. How the Canadian government broke Musk's contract knowing it would hit their own country's education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Why did they go through with it after all? Answer: principle, national sovereignty, as they call it, or cold political calculation?
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government he's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
But that's just the beginning. Next came provinces, city halls, individual cities. The raids on Tesla have begun at every level. Subsidy withdrawals, boycotts, empty showrooms. People started taping logos to their cars. Yes, the T that yesterday was a symbol of progress is now a stigma. People are ashamed to own a Tesla.
Over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
And while everyone thinks this is a localized conflict, the crisis has already spread around the world. Europe has turned its back. Germany, France, Britain, sales are down tens of %. Vandals are burning showrooms, slashing tires, writing insults on hoods. This isn't just emotion. This is a symbol crash. As markets crash, investors flee, and employees are laid off en masse, a far more painful question is maturing inside the company: should Elon Musk go? The people who once built a future with him are now fleeing to competitors. But the worst blow is not Canada, Europe, or even the market. The worst blow is Musk himself. His words, his policies, his decision to enter games that Tesla never had anything to do with. What happens next? Will Tesla be able to recover? Or are we witnessing the demise of the most influential brand of the 21st century? This isn't just a story about tariffs. It's a story about how quickly an empire can be destroyed and who will be next.
Tesla shares have slumped by more than 9% amid a fall in sales in Europe. The electric vehicle maker posted lower sales across 5 European countries, including France and the UK. Joining us now to discuss this is CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio. Remy, why do we believe these sales are dropping? What's driving that?
Sure. Well, Errol, basically what Elon Musk has been talking about over the past, say, few months, ever since Donald Trump's election back to the White House, that has been fueling this anger, this frustration. Some even say disgust towards Musk, and they're taking it out on Tesla. Tesla now feeling the pain. But because of what's happening here in Europe, Tesla sales fell by nearly half across the continent just last month, 45%.
One signed document, one line on official letterhead, and the entire Tesla empire collapsed like a house of cards. Canadian officials didn't hold a high-profile press conference, didn't sue, didn't give any advance warning. They just struck. Instantly, hard, uncompromisingly. A 100% tariff on Tesla products, a move that experts would later call the most aggressive economic retaliation in the nation's history against a private corporation. This tax didn't just double the price of cars. It effectively excluded Tesla from the Canadian market. Cars that cost $70,000 now cost $140,000. Car dealerships were empty by the next morning. Managers cancelled orders before they could even get through to customers. People panicked and cancelled their purchases without waiting for details. Some dealers closed for good in a matter of days, writing off losses in the tens of millions.
Canada, the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., slapping new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods that are sold in Canada. And the 27 countries of the European Union imposing retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods sold in Europe, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. President Trump with the Irish Prime Minister visiting the White House today. The president suggesting his tariffs won't stop here, saying, "Of course, I'm going to respond." And tonight, right here, the new poll showing 56% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. The number's even worse now on the president's tariffs.
For Elon Musk himself, it wasn't just humiliation, it was the beginning of the end. And if one thought that everything would be limited to cars, a week later came the second wave. The Canadian government cancelled a major contract with Starlink, Musk's satellite division. The deal was worth more than $66 million and provided internet access to more than 400 remote communities, including regions where there wasn't even cell phone service. For these communities, Starlink was not just a service, but a window to the modern world. Distance learning, telemedicine, commerce, and communication with the outside world all disappeared overnight. The official explanation stated, "We will not fund those who destroy our economy." In reality, the reasons were deeper.
But they are not ruling out the possibility that this was arson. At the same time, as you just mentioned, there are groups that have been organizing ongoing and peaceful protests at Tesla dealerships around the world. These demonstrations targeting Elon Musk and his affiliation with the Trump administration. Italy's prime minister is said to be close friends with Musk, and there were reports that Teslas have been vandalized in her hometown in Italy. Diane.
Canada did everything it could to demonstrate that it no longer needed Elon Musk, neither as a partner, nor as an investor, nor as a visionary. The decision hit thousands of residents and sparked a wave of protests in the northern provinces, but the government didn't back down. More, it added, cancelling the contract is a matter of national security. A leaked confidential report published by local journalist Jeanine Roy said Starlink could have been used to collect data on the movement of vehicles and people in border areas, raising concerns amid strained diplomatic relations with the US. Musk denied those allegations, but the damage was done. A crucial channel of presence in the North American region was taken away from the company. But the government went further. 2 weeks after the first strike, the Prime Minister gave a speech in which he declared that Canada no longer has to tolerate the economic dictates of global corporations that act against our interests. Shortly thereafter, the Canadian Parliament approved a bill restricting the use of Tesla and products from companies associated with Elon Musk in government contracts. This applied not only to cars but also to solar panels, software, and infrastructure solutions. Tesla and its subsidiaries were effectively put on an unofficial blacklist at a nationwide level.
KTLA's Samantha Cortese joins us live with more on the wave of vandalism in protests of Elon Musk and his role in Washington. Sam?
Hi, Sharon, Micah. The ATF and FBI are collaborating with federal, state, and local law enforcement to investigate acts of domestic terrorism surrounding Teslas.
However, it didn't end there. Local authorities decided to act independently without instructions from the center. The first to respond was British Columbia. The province where every third Tesla in Canada was sold. Previously, the local government offered subsidies of up to 5,000 Canadian dollars for the purchase of an electric car. Tesla, as the market leader, used this advantage to great advantage, but now things have changed. The subsidy program has been abruptly terminated, a decision that took effect as of midnight that day. Already in the morning, signs appeared on car dealerships saying Tesla subsidies are no longer valid, and by evening, footage of empty showrooms began to appear on social media. People had simply disappeared. Potential buyers cancelled reservations, returned prepayments, complained in online forums. Many felt cheated, not so much for the money but for the idea itself. Tesla was no longer a symbol of innovation. Now it was a problem. A wave of videos began on social networks, Tesla owners taping over the emblem, removing logo hubcaps, painting their chrome black to somehow hide their affiliation with the company. One such video where a Vancouver resident repaints the front of a Model Y in green and replaces the Tesla badge with the Apple emblem garnered 500,000 views overnight. People started looking for ways to camouflage en masse, because becoming an object of scorn for driving is just too much.
Worse than expected, 336 and 68 vehicles, 336,068 vehicles delivered in the first quarter for Tesla. For a point of reference, the street was expecting, the street account was expecting, based on analyst expectations.
Some dealers tried to fight back, offering discounts, promotions, free charging for a year. But without subsidies, and with federal tariffs at 100%, it was all useless. Tesla's price in terms of Canadian dollars was as high as $180,000 for the Model X. No consumer was willing to pay that kind of money. Even more affluent buyers started looking for alternatives. Chinese BYD and NIO, Korean Hyundai Ioniq, German Volkswagen IO began to be perceived as more neutral and even patriotic options. British Columbia proved to be just the beginning. Within days, Ontario, Alberta, Quebec began considering similar measures. Some provinces didn't officially eliminate subsidies but began imposing additional conditions, such as requiring verified local origin of components, which automatically excluded Tesla product. It was a quiet but effective form of economic banishment.
Running around on stage with a Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half. And he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do. What a creep, what a jerk. Like who derives joy?
All of these actions, from the federal to the municipal level, were part of an overall strategy that analysts called economic brand banishment. Canadian authorities didn't just want to punish Tesla. They decided to expel the company from the country. And by the looks of it, they succeeded. In a matter of weeks, Tesla lost almost the entire Canadian market, lost a strategic contract, and faced a wave of reputational blowback and political alienation. But most importantly, it was only the first act of a much larger drama, because Canada's actions became the trigger for a chain reaction that began to shake Tesla's entire global presence, from Europe to Mexico. And this was no longer a game of taxes or contracts. It was a war. It started with a lightning-fast decision by Ottawa, but outside of Canada, the impact was far more devastating. As soon as news of the 100% tariffs and the cancelled Starlink contract broke, panic set in on Wall Street. At first, it looked like a nervous reaction, then as a mass exodus, and within days, analysts were openly talking about a crisis of confidence in Tesla. Institutional investors, including giants like Vanguard and BlackRock, began to get rid of their stakes in the company. And they did it not publicly, but through closed deals and fractional sales, so as not to provoke panic in the market. But the effect was inevitable. Tesla shares collapsed by 30% in a month, which in monetary terms meant the loss of more than $146 billion of market capitalization.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video, and investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off, and 16 cars burned in this fire. And right now, investigators don't know what caused it.
No one believed that a Canadian maneuver could so shake such a giant. But that's exactly what happened. It was not just Tesla's financial stability that was under attack, but the very belief of investors in the integrity of the brand. Musk, who had previously confidently navigated through crises, now seemed vulnerable. The reason was not just money. It was the fact that, for the first time, the reputational crisis went beyond the virtual space and became a real threat to the physical safety, social status, and even the lives of the owners of his cars. In various corners of the world, Tesla became a target. What used to be a symbol of progress now became an object of hatred. In Germany, dozens of cases of cars being vandalized in residential parking lots have been recorded. It wasn't limited to broken glass and slashed tires. In some cases, perpetrators ran wires from electric stoves to charging stations to disable car batteries. One incident in Munich made European headlines. At night, unknown people painted the wall of the Tesla Center with the inscription Kolonialismus of Raden, colonialism on wheels, citing accusations of expansion and ignoring local labor unions. 2 days later, the building was set on fire. France, where electric cars have gained support at the state level, has also turned its back. In the suburbs of Lyon, according to unconfirmed reports, a Tesla car dealership completely burned down, with damage estimated at 12 million euros. Authorities called the incident a possible act of protest radicalization. However, no suspects have been arrested. The media avoided directly linking this to Musk's politics, but everyone realized that the reputational environment around the brand had become toxic. Supporting Tesla now meant supporting not innovation but the political statements of its founder.
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. First, I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
In the United States, the company's home country, things had changed too. In Los Angeles and Seattle, attacks on Tesla cars parked near educational institutions and government buildings have increased. In some neighborhoods, police even had to issue internal guidelines advising them not to park Teslas near potentially protesting infrastructure. Particularly disturbing was a video from Portland, where a Model 3 owner describes on camera how his car was vandalized 3 times by unknown assailants, each time leaving a Traitor's Choice sign on the hood. His video garnered 2 million views in just 24 hours. But the streets were not the only battleground. Mass discontent has reached corporate meeting rooms. According to Marcus van der Loo, former vice president of communications for Tesla in Europe, more than a dozen large corporations have withdrawn orders for Tesla corporate fleets since the beginning of the year. These companies include Scandinavian telecommunications group Telvix, German logistics giant Eurofrot, and even the Dutch Ministry of Transportation. They didn't want to associate their image with a brand that was in the midst of a political conflict. But the worst part was that this wave was no longer up to Tesla itself. The brand had become a symbol, and it was this symbol that began to be rejected. Against the background of falling demand, Tesla made an obvious step. It began to reduce prices, on average by 10 to 15%, and for some models even by 20%. But the effect was the opposite. Buyers began to wait. It seemed to them that tomorrow will be even cheaper. The market froze. Nobody wanted to take a car today if in a week it could be 5,000 cheaper. Thus began the effect of waiting for a discount, which quickly turned the demand into a shaky swamp.
A 371, most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362,615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
At the same time, the aftermarket collapsed. People who bought a Tesla a year or two ago suddenly found that the value of their cars had dropped by 30 to 40%. Some were surprised to see how a used Model Y on sale turned out to be more expensive than a new one, simply because the seller did not follow the new prices. On Tesla owner forums, a real anger erupted. Users complained that they were caught in a price trap and accused the company of destroying trust. At the same time, a wave of returns began in Europe. People who had bought a Tesla on lease or subscription began refusing to renew. The reason? Not just money. Reputational costs became more important. Specialized workshops opened in Frankfurt and Copenhagen that offered Tesla debranding, removing logos, changing screen firmware, replacing interior elements to remove the feeling that you are driving in Musk's car. These services cost thousands of euros but were in steady demand. And while some countries boycotted and others burned, within the company itself, a discussion began about a key question: what to do next. Musk, contrary to habit, was silent. His Twitter became less active, and that silence spooked investors more than any statements, because for the first time in a long time it became obvious the company has no clear answer, and perhaps no way out.
So there are a couple of things that might be going on here. So on the one hand, it could be that just at a very basic level, Musk has quickly observed a 40% decline in sales in Tesla in Europe.
Tesla's collapse was not limited to street protests and a drop in the stock market. The most dangerous began where its foundation used to be, inside the factories, offices, and labs themselves. It wasn't just a wave of layoffs, it was an exodus, massive and systemic. In the first 9 months of 2024, Tesla lost 15% of its global workforce. And we're not talking about rank-and-file employees, the best ones were leaving. Those who designed the new generation of batteries, who managed the assembly lines in Berlin, who developed the autopilot algorithms. People weren't just writing resignations. They were leaving for competitors. First it was Lucid Motors, then it was Rivian, then BYD and even VinFast. For the first time in years, competing companies didn't just have a chance to catch up to Tesla. They were getting its brains. Many of those who left attributed it not only to the working conditions, but also to the atmosphere. Inside the corporation, the situation was electrifying. After massive layoffs initiated in an attempt to save money after market failures, employees were working 12 to 14 hours a day, often without days off. Orders were getting fewer, but the demands for results were only growing. Internal memes emerged, such as "the mission is to burn out on charging and welcome to Tesla gracious." These jokes, initially ironic, quickly became a symptom. Internal surveys showed record low levels of job satisfaction, with more than 63% of employees expressing a desire to leave the company at the first opportunity. Musk himself has remained silent. He hasn't made a public statement in almost a month. Even his Twitter, usually active to the point of borderline hysteria, has been quiet. Some claimed he was negotiating his exit from operational control. Others that he was preparing a new project that should restore him to visionary status. But no one knew for sure. Meanwhile, the company was losing blood. Orders were drying up. Production was shrinking. People were being laid off. Plants were running at 40% capacity. And increasingly, the question was being asked in meetings, offices, forums, and articles: could a company built around a personality survive the collapse of that personality? Or would Tesla, like so many other legends of its time, become yet another reminder that even the most brilliant empires collapse, not when they are defeated from the outside, but when they disintegrate from within?